Hello and welcome to Reggie'sTake.com podcast number 10. Today's show, if you have not seen Marvel's Avengers Age of Ultron, pause the podcast, get off your ass, pick up the keys, the wallet, run down to your theater, watch the movie, then come back and then hit play again. Otherwise, you will be majorly pissed off at us.
As long as you watch us for at least these 2 seconds, you're going to give Reggie the views, so it doesn't matter.
So anyway, you just heard him. James is joining me once again. You're almost becoming a regular.
Yeah, and so are you.
Yes,
actually.
well, it's my podcast, so.
I mean, you are.
Oh,
mine.
yes.
I have one too, by the way.
I know you've seen Age of Ultron.
Yeah, it's twice, actually. I saw it for the second time yesterday.
Cool. I've only seen it once, last week. So, and it's been, 3 weeks since the movie's come out. Just to kind of stir the pot, I don't know, you probably didn't see online, but there was this radio show host from New York that has his own show, and he blasted Age of Ultron.
Sure.
And my guess is, from what he said, he never really watched anything of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because he said his kids loved it, but his quote was, "All it is two collisions in the air between superheroes for 2 hours. That's all it is. It's like going to the dentist. That movie wasn't bad. It was putrid."
Well, first off, that's all the movies. That's every superhero movie ever made. I mean, at least since Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2 was the train scene with Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus, I think, is what kind of started that. But, I mean, at the same time, I would hardly say there's story in it too.
Yeah.
That's fine, whatever.
But
I realize I'm gonna say this, and I don't know how you feel about these movies. I know your wife likes them, so I better be quiet. But that's how I feel about Transformers. So I don't hate this guy that much. Like, it's because I get it.
It's one man's
kind
opinion.
Of annoying. Yeah. I mean, if you're putrid is a bit much. This movie's not putrid.
Well, my question to this guy would be, have you seen any of the others first?
Yeah.
Because if this is the first one he's ever really seen, then I could see where maybe he's coming from.
Yeah, that's pretty much all of them. I mean, and especially out of the Marvel Universe ones, the only ones that may not fall into that category might be Thor 1
And the first Iron Man.
No. Captain America 2. Even the first Iron Man, as much as I love the first Iron Man, if you remember in the third act, between Iron Man and Jeff Bridges,
Yes.
like, it kind of all of a sudden just turned into like another superhero like fist fight. I can forgive it because it's such a good movie.
Yeah.
That is the one weakness of that movie. Like, ultimately is why it's always going to be second best next to The Dark Knight, I think. I mean, The Dark Knight is amazing. Iron Man, for most of the movies, neck and neck with it.
Yeah.
But it's that last act where it kind of like peters out and turns into another superhero movie.
Now, I was talking with Caleb, who's been on this show before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he didn't like Iron Man 3, I remember.
Yeah, and he likes what Marvel's doing in the sense of overall is what they're doing. He's definitely admitted he's a DC fan, which is fine. I mean, I like Batman myself.
Each his own.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I've never considered
But
myself
his problem with Age of Ultron was too many jokes, too many little one-liner, too many quips here and there. And he said it's at points, you think he's starting to take it seriously, and then they throw in a quick little quip, and that kind of annoyed him.
That's been a thing with Marvel since Avengers 1.
But I think
and
that's more
actually,
Joss.
I think it's less.
I think it's more Joss Whedon's.
And
movies.
I'm going to say I agree with you. And that's always been Joss Whedon. And if you've ever seen Buffy or Angel or anything like that, as cool as these trailers were cool, and like, let's admit it, they were kind of cooler than the movie. If the trailers, and that's not the first time a trailer's been like so cool, but even watching the trailer, I was like, as scary as Ultron looks in these, I knew it's a Joss Whedon movie. He's not going to say jokes. He's going to be really scary and then say a weird joke. Like, that's just
how Whedon
the
works.
way it is. And the thing is, I think it's actually less jokey than Avengers was, the first Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
The first Avengers is like joke, left and right. This one I think is actually more serious. I think, though, what the first Avengers movie audiences, including myself, because I wasn't a Whedon fan, I became a Whedon fan after. I mean, I saw Firefly, and I've seen an episode of Buffy here and there before. I didn't really start watching his stuff until after Avengers, and then I was like, oh, this is just the way this guy is. Like, I mean, because when you saw Avengers, it's like, I've never seen anything like this. And it's like, no, this guy, like, everything he makes is like this. He's kind of like the Stan Lee of movies. Like, Stan Lee had his own voice when he wrote the comics, where it was the same thing, where it was just like this weird person. Everybody talked exactly the same, and, like, everyone said the same kind of jokes. And Joss Whedon is very similar to that. As far as too jokey, I totally get that. I am going to say I think it's actually more serious than the first Avengers was. Maybe it just worked better because that was the first time people saw that. I know, like, Loki and all his, like, jokes and quips was out of nowhere, because if you go back to the first Thor, Tom Hiddleston played Loki pretty straight on that one. And then all of a sudden he's this, like, nutcase, like, telling jokes on Avengers, and that's the way he's been ever since. And, you know, that's kind of been a thing. The jokiness, it's kind of been a thing ever since, like Iron Man 3, Thor 2, not so much Captain America 2, but Guardians of the Galaxy, certainly.
Well, but I think with Guardians,
it works in that because that was so weird.
And I think you might expect that from Guardians.
It was just such a weird concept. I think you went into it knowing it was going to be part comedy. The trailers definitely, and that's one thing I am going to say is, like, they need to be careful with the trailers. Like, Iron Man 3, that was cool. Like, okay.
Well, to me, Iron Man 3, they showed you in this trailer
a totally different movie.
And then we've discussed this before, and then you watch the first hour of Iron Man 3, and you're thinking, okay, Stark's in for one hell of a fight, and then they pull that Trevor shit out of nowhere, and he's just an actor, which somewhat makes you feel cheated depending on who you are.
Well, it made me feel cheated too the first time I saw it, but the more I saw that movie, the more I think it's ingenious. Like, I would rank Iron Man 3 as one of the best ones in the Marvel series.
Well, I believe if I read it correctly, all the top Marvel movies, 2 of them are Iron Man. With the Avengers being the other one.
It's getting hard to rank these, by the way, because the bar is so high,
and it's getting higher and higher each time.
You know, and I mean, what are the worst ones in the series? Like Iron Man 2, like, that's still a pretty good movie. I mean, if Iron Man 2 is the worst movie in the series, they're doing something right. I mean, Incredible Hulk retroactively is even worse because we have a new actor.
Right.
But that movie wasn't bad either. And even, like, what's the other one that people don't really like is Thor 2. People are actually pretty split on that one. Like, a lot of people love Thor 2. Thor 2 is really good. Like, this whole series has been really good. Where I would rank Ultron, I'm not entirely sure.
Now, I'm going to start a little bit different here with Ultron. In the trailer, they teased possible peril for our heroes, and Joss Whedon in his interview said, you know, you got to have some peril with the second Avengers movie, but I think they took the easy way out of what they did by killing off
the new guy,
one of the two new characters they bring in, and they kill one of those two off.
I totally agree.
Okay, I get you want to put someone in peril, but to me, it'd make a bigger impact if it would have been Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, Hawkeye.
Like, the whole movie is like, Hawkeye's going to totally die. Like, the whole movie's like,
because they're showing
we meet his family and he lives on a farm, and, like, oh, everybody loves Hawkeye all of a sudden out of nowhere, because Hawkeye's always been, like, the loser, and, like, now everyone loves Hawkeye. And it's like, oh, he's totally going to die. And it's like, no, we're going to kill off this new guy. Well, okay.
They made you think they were going to take out someone big when they didn't.
And after Bucky and Agent Coulson, it's like, he may not even be dead at this point. Like, that's like... That is something, like, it's too soon. Honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's too soon to say this for Quicksilver, but... The only characters other than a villain that stays dead in the series are Jensen from Iron Man, and Thor's mom. Like, that's pretty much it. Like, I can't think of anyone else because Bucky came back,
And we're pretty sure
kinda-
that ended Thor 2 that
Well, Loki's back for sure.
Well,
but
I mean their father. I can't.
Odin.
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 Yeah, we're pretty sure they killed him off, but they haven't really.
But they haven't said it,
that
so I'm not
not
going to
sure.
take that. You know, and actually, we talked about this. The story that I had written in my head was Thor dies in this
right,
movie,
because you had
and
a theory.
Thor 3 would have been
To get somewhere in the first part.
he would have
pulled
been
out of-
he would have been in hell, and Loki has to go and
pull him
get him
out.
out of hell, which is kind of like in hindsight, that's kind of a ripoff of Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. But still, like I think that would have been a lot cooler than Thor. Like, oh, I saw a vision, I gotta leave. Like, okay, whatever. Like. At this point, it's like I feel like I really liked this movie. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, I liked it too.
But there's some stuff at this point. It's like we got to raise the stakes. Nick Fury didn't even die in Captain America 2, and I gotta say, like this when Winter Soldier came out, I thought, wow, that was kind of lame that he came back. But you know what? I really like Samuel Jackson. I really like Nick Fury. That's okay.
And I think
but after seeing him in Avengers 2, that was nothing more than a cameo.
Right.
Like it added absolutely nothing.
And
to
according
the
to an
story.
interview he did here recently, when he did Age of Ultron, and supposedly he's only got 2 more movies left on his contract with Marvel.
Well, they better kill him off for real.
So my guess is you'll probably see him again somewhere as a cameo in the 3rd Captain America movie, and then my guess is you probably won't see him again until the Infinity Wars. That would be my guess.
They're gonna have to, and I know Joss Whedon has complained about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I totally agree with him. For bringing back Coulson. Like, that was supposed to be a game changer. After bringing him back for a TV show, it really just proves, like, they're committing one of the big cardinal sins of comic books that have always been around in comic books, which is no one really dies.
Right.
And that's the reason why they don't die. Not to sound cynical, but, I mean, this is the truth. The reason why they don't die is because they're trademark characters, and they want to keep releasing toys.
Right.
And they want to keep releasing, like, more comics and blah, blah. And so they either die, or they're like Robin, where there's 4 different Robins who all look exactly the same, and who all have the same black hair, same outfit. I was kind of hoping the movies could get away from that, but movies are stuck in that.
If you're going to commit to killing a character, leave them dead.
Do it, yeah, totally agree. And if they bring Quicksilver back, I think I might be done at that point.
I don't think they will, though. I would see very hard for them to do.
Well,
so.
And I think with Quicksilver, I think the whole purpose of him was to be sort of the Gwen Stacy for Scarlet Witch. Like, he's the catalyst that makes her become a superhero or whatever, and she's gonna, or the Uncle Ben or whatever, and she's gonna be like a main character from here on out, which I'm fine with. Like, Scarlet Witch was always a big Avengers, a bigger character in Avengers than Quicksilver. To be frank with you, Quicksilver was always kind of lame.
And to mention what you were talking about with Coulson and bringing him back for the TV series, I think as long as they leave him out of the movies, they're all right.
I think so too.
But if they try and work him back into the movies,
yeah,
then now I understand that they're trying to work
because you're doing like a level B canon at that point,
right?
With this TV show.
Now I know they're trying to set up the Inhumans through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to eventually go to the movies, and that's fine. But just leave Coulson out of that movie.
Can I say something about the Inhumans real quick? I love how, like, since Marvel Studios doesn't have the right to mutants and X-Men, they have to go with Inhumans, which no one has ever cared about. Like, they've been around since the beginning. Like, they've started off in Fantastic Four like everyone else. Everyone starts in Fantastic Four, pretty much. Black Panther, Silver Surfer, Adam Warlock, the Inhumans, like, they all start off in Fantastic Four back in the 60s. And then Thor, when his comic was still called Journey into Mystery, originally it was the first half of Thor comics was like a regular superhero movie or superhero comic, which really weren't that great. But then they would also do the second half was Tales of Asgard, which is like a retelling of, like, a very loose retelling of Norse mythology as a comic, and those were amazing. They changed it to, I could be wrong, but I know the Inhumans had their own half a comic, and I think they shared it with Thor, and I think they ran out of ideas for Tales of Asgard, So they changed that to the Inhumans. So it was Thor and then the Inhumans, and they shared one. But like the Inhumans, it's like Medusa's the only one I really remember, and Crystal and Black Bolt. Like I don't really remember Black Bolt all that well.
No, I don't know about you, but my only really second issue with Age of Ultron, as you watch throughout the entire movie, Stark is the reason Ultron eventually exists. Okay, that's fine. I got no problems with that. And
he gets off scot-free.
Well, he gets off scot-free, and then when they try to work the Vision, you see all this tension building up of Stark doing these things for whatever his reason he's thinking of, that he's doing it for good, and then you get to the end scene with Captain America there. And they're still all kind of buddy-buddy. I was looking for just a slight bit of tension there at the end of the movie to kind of lead you into Civil War, and yet they're still showing them buddy-buddy. It's like I was just looking for a little bit of, they're still liking each other, but there's just that little bit of Captain America going, man, I don't know about you, buddy.
I thought that was weird too. Like Thor kind of gives him a remark when he leaves. Thor's kind of a dumbass. Good guy, nice guy, but and then I thought that was weird too. I know, like seeing it the second time, like I did notice Captain America mentioning that he's done and he's gonna build a farm for Pepper and hopefully no one blows up this house. Ha ha ha. Reference to Iron Man 3. So he's quitting. It would have been nice to have delved into why he's quitting. Like, other than, I'm going on a vacation from fighting the robot that I created.
Maybe you'll find more about that in Civil War.
I hope so. And I think that's kind of a mistake not to do this in the second one, because it kind of feels like, geez, this guy just created this death machine and he gets no repercussions for it. And it goes back to the very first Iron Man. Like it's like a theme with this character. And after this long, it's like, what is going on here? Like Tony Stark in the first Iron Man is this rock star who is a weapons dealer, a weapons manufacturer. Kind of a weird thing. Like, I know, like, that's that whole Hugh Hefner thing, or not Hugh Hefner. I know that Iron Man is, or at least was one time, was based on Howard Hughes. It's just kind of weird that this guy's like this rock star when he's building all these missiles and all these defense stuff. At least in the first movie, he has like this great character arc. And then in the second movie, they bring up some interesting stuff like, can the government tell him what to do, or should the government tell him what to do? I mean, he does have like these death machines,
and the government's wanting him to turn over the Iron Man suit.
He built them on a government contract.
Yeah.
I mean, like, even if the new ones aren't, like, he still built the prototype while he was in government contract. Should he hand them over? Like, I mean, they're death machines. Where does he belong in there? Iron Man 2's amazing because they bring up all these wonderful questions, and then we're not gonna dissolve this. His buddy at S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury's gonna let him off scot-free, and blah blah. And then like that becomes like the theme of Iron Man. Like even the Avengers, Iron Man's not to blame, but S.H.I.E.L.D. is.
Yes.
Like S.H.I.E.L.D. totally opened up a portal that brought Loki in. So, like, no one is really, like, I mean, it's pretty much, Tony Stark and Nick Fury are basically, like, causing all these problems, and them and their dumb Avenger buddies, like, help them clean up, and no one ever gets in trouble for anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's really starting to get kind of weird. And this one was, like, the ultimate. Now, everyone would know that Tony built Ultron. Is he hiding that from people, or do people just not care? I think I know the idea. I know that he quits the team, so he had to quit for a reason. I mean, it wasn't, but they should have divulged. Is he quitting because he's just tired and retiring, or is he quitting because Captain America's like, dude, you messed up big time, you need to get out? And that would have been
they could have said
nice to know.
They even could have had him say, hey, I'm stepping out after the Ultron fiasco.
Yes, I would have been fine.
I'm better off just to step away from this.
Or have Captain America be like, you know what, I'll always respect you, but like for right now,
it's best if you're just
have you. Yeah.
I
would have been fine with that. And it's just kind of weird.
See, I was looking for a little tension into that movie between those two, and I didn't get it. I know that's nitpicking.
No, that's actually not nitpicking. But I think that's actually a big problem with the movie.
So, but I'm hoping
the movie's really good. but it does have problems.
But I'm hoping though
one.
with Civil War that they've started filming already. That if those two are supposed to be at odds with each other, that at the end of Civil War they are definitely at odds and not at least on speaking
It's
terms.
the same guys directing Winter Soldier, right?
Right.
I
and
think
those two guys have already been signed to direct the two-part
That's right,
Infinity
yeah.
Wars. So I think Caleb's issue of the quippiness of, after every major scene, I think will go away with those two guys. I'm looking for that tension. At the end of Civil War, I'm looking for that tension of Stark ain't talking to Rogers, and Rogers doesn't want to talk to Stark, and they're just on opposite fences. They respect each other to a certain degree, but they don't want to talk to each other.
We're gonna need to see something serious between them because, like, Ultron might be the biggest threat the Avengers faced. With the the one exception maybe being, I know Malekith was like pretty much going to destroy the universe, but it seemed like he and his army weren't extremely powerful. Like Thor was able to take them on his own. And, maybe that's just because the movie wasn't as good as some of the others. It seemed like he wasn't quite as powerful, but Ultron was big. This was a pretty powerful dude. And there was a lot at stake in this movie. And Tony's just like, whatever. I mean, like, you kind of messed up pretty bad.
And I thought it was unique that they were using Scarlet Witch to get in their heads to kind of start playing on their fears.
Yeah,
and
that was actually really cool.
And I thought, okay, that's ingenious to start making these guys question each other.
Who she is, right? She's Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen's little sister.
Yes. Actually, I knew that before going into the movie because it's like,
too.
came across something, it's like, Olsen. She wouldn't be, and I looked it up, and I've realized that's who she was.
She did actually 2 interviews on Jon Stewart for this movie, and I gotta give her some credit. She knows her comic books.
Wow.
Like she was going into detail about like storylines that I had never read. I know like a lot of it probably came with the job, like she had to read that stuff, but she also said that her older brother was a comic book fan, so her growing up, he would read them to her, so which is kind of interesting actually.
And I think a lot of actors and actresses, when they do get a role, whether they're interested in it or not, I think do dive into the past just so they know where this character is coming from and they don't upset the fans in some way, especially when you're jumping into something as big as what Marvel's got going on with trying to interconnect all these movies with all these different characters and still trying to bring them into one.
I think the weird part about Ultron is,
now, were you surprised that
first Avengers, that was like the end of the chapter. That was like the finale. This one
is really kind of
it's like a setup movie, which is weird.
It's kind of like setting up for
even with Scarlet Witch. We see Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. We get to know them a little bit. We also know that, oh, she's going to be big in the next one. And it's like, there's a lot of stuff. It's like, oh, this is going to be big in the next one. And it's like,
because really in Age of Ultron, they really set up 3 new heroes.
They do.
Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, and then Vision.
Well, 2, because they kill off.
Well, 2, but in the overall sense, I mean,
Vision was awesome, by the way.
Yes,
I really liked him. Anyway, what were you going to ask? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to ask, are you surprised they left James Spader's voice as his natural voice as much as they did, or did you think they'd give him more of a kind of tweak it and give him more of a synthesized?
You know what? The first time I saw it, I was surprised because in the trailers, the thing about the trailers is like I've learned that those are unfinished products. There's going to be lines in a trailer that no one speaks. There's going to be shots that don't happen. There's going to be shots where the special effects aren't done.
Right.
But I was kind of expecting him to have this robot voice, and he didn't. Second time I saw it, it was totally smooth. It really does work. Actually, I think, and I know Ultron didn't work for everyone, I think he might be one of my favorite villains.
I definitely like the overall look they gave him.
He was incredibly cool. Actually, this is where I think Ultron, like I know some people that didn't care for him, but I also know some people that loved him, and I'm one of the people that loved him. I think what was so interesting to me about him was, aside from being this robot death machine, like a lot of times in movies, like a robot, an AI becomes self-aware, and all of a sudden they deem humans as illogical and kill all humans, whatever. And that's kind of what you're thinking is going to happen here, and that's not really it at all. Like, it sort of is, except Ultron is not logical. Like, he's insane. I also like that he was like a child. Like, even though he's this big weird robot with James Spader's voice, If you listen to like the way he talks and the way he acts, he acts like a kid, a 13-year-old boy. It's really weird, and it's really interesting, I think.
Well, I like the fact that then when they finally, if you listen close enough, that it was actually Jarvis was keeping them from getting to the nuclear launch codes. You know, it was like, that was kind of like, oh, okay, that's cool. So
Yeah.
Jarvis really isn't completely gone.
Which is funny. They keep faking Jarvis's
His
death.
death.
Although, like, he might be dead now. I don't think he's really Vision anymore.
I think Jarvis is gone. I think Jarvis
Yeah, I
is
think
all in
he's
Vision.
gone.
Because if you notice that the last fight, you
They
heard a
used-
voice.
He used the
that-
girl Friday.
He used a female voice.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that's what you're going to hear from here on out. Well, I'm fine with that.
I am too.
I mean, knowing that Jarvis is now basically Vision, I'm fine with that. I think
Actually, I'm gonna say my favorite scene in the movie is actually at the very end when the last Ultron robot comes out of the ocean. You know, it's all beat up and kind of messed up. He and Vision just kind of sit there and have a conversation about life and humanity. And I don't know what it was, but that scene I thought was incredible between Ultron, who's essentially the robot devil, and Vision, who's like robot Jesus or whatever. Like, just them having a conversation about neither really understands humanity, but, you know, I thought that was really neat. I thought that was a very good ending. I thought it was actually very touching in a way. And that, you know, that's where the movie has its strong points or moments like that. I think that moment was incredibly well done.
What about how they played between Black Widow and Hulk?
You know, I liked it. I don't understand, like, everyone's all mad about that, and I don't really get it. Whatever. Like, you know, I know, like, Black Widow has been... I think a lot of people feel betrayed because Black Widow, starting with Avengers, not Iron Man 2, but starting with Avengers... Black Widow has really been like the face of like feminism for superhero movies. And that was Joss Whedon. So I think a lot of people feel betrayed that all of a sudden she's in love with some geeky guy like every other movie.
I think most people after seeing Winter Soldier were thinking, okay, it's going to be with Rogers if she's going to be smitten with anybody. And then in this one, she's kind of more taken with Banner instead of Rogers.
I think, you know what? And I was okay with that. Like her and Cap.
I think they're more
too
friends.
Similar, yeah.
I think they're more friends, more like brother-sister type of relationship.
Yeah. Same with her and Hawkeye. But I think, you know, with Hulk, it was someone who was like really different that she'd never...
Well, that, and you also got a lot more of her backstory in this one. And I know some online are kind of upset because her character said they made her sterile so she can't have kids to make her a more effective killer, and some are kind of outraged they actually did that. But in a certain sense, it kind of makes sense, and not to be sexist myself, but I could see where putting that in would make her character, especially in like a dangerous, evil. And I think that's the reason why she relates to Banner so much, because Banner said, "Why would anyone want to have my kid?" You know,
well, Banner can't have kids. Like if you remember, like Banner can't even have sex because like the heart rate will turn him into the Hulk.
Yeah, I think that's what kind of what attracts those two.
Well, and you know, I get if people feel betrayed that like all of a sudden the face of feminism is like in love with a guy like in every other movie. But I'm gonna say this: it's like after 3 movies, like whatever, let her have a boyfriend. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with. I get the argument. I think it's
they're nitpicking at it.
I think so because I mean Thor like travels across the universe for Natalie Portman.
Yeah,
I mean Iron Man and Pepper. Like maybe she wants to be in love with someone too. Like I mean,
so what if it's Banner?
Yeah, I do get where they're coming from because there was a moment or two where my eyebrow raised, but then I was like, well, no, this actually feels okay. Like people are saying like, oh, and she was a damsel in distress. And again, not gonna lie, when I saw the movie and she was kidnapped, she was in Ultron's prison, my eyebrow raised a little bit, but it went down because, well, actually it wasn't when she was in the prison. It was when Banner like saved her, my eyebrow raised. But you know what? Immediately she saves him. So like I mean I get the argument. I don't think it was really that big of a deal. I don't think it was like overtly sexist, like, and I know sexism is a big thing in movies. I don't think this was really overtly sexist. I think she was still tough as nails.
Oh
like,
yeah.
And the only reason why she was in that prison in the first place was because she was willing to sacrifice herself to get that casket that had Vision in it out. Yeah, and she was like flying in a semi-trailer that's for some reason flying through the sky.
Well, that's because two of Ultron's.
Yeah, I know. But still, it's like, yeah, she got captured doing a pretty badass thing. Like, I mean, like, even then, like, even when she got captured, she used her skills to send Hawkeye a Morse code message.
Yeah.
I'm really not buying the damsel in distress thing. Like, I get how people would see it, but if you're actually paying attention to the movie, she really was hardly a damsel in distress. She was captured for like 5 minutes. She used her sources to get help, which is the same thing Tony Stark did in Iron Man 1. Almost. The only difference is, yeah, Iron Man actually built his own suit. Whatever. Like, I mean, it's almost the same. Like, she's still using her resources to, if she can't get herself out, get other people to get her out. So right. I don't really see that as...
I did like that part when Banner, frees her and he's like, I gotta go. You don't want me around in this. I can't be around in a public place anymore. I don't want to hurt anymore, cause more damage. She kind of kisses him and then just shoves him right off because she knew it's like...
yeah, because you're worthless right now, Banner. We need the Hulk.
We need the big guy, yeah.
It does kind of sound like, I mean, the movie wasn't perfect. It does kind of sound like we're nitpicking. I think it was actually a brilliant movie. I do. I think it was a really, really good movie.
It's raking in the bucks huge right now. So, I don't know. Do you think it'll surpass the first Avengers in total sales worldwide when it's done?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to say. Like, I'm not really good at guessing that because, I mean, Dark Knight Rises wasn't as good as The Dark Knight, but it did better in theaters. Spider-Man 3 was the worst Spider-Man movie, but it did better than the other two. I think, didn't it do better than Spider-Man 1?
I think all those Spider-Mans outdid each other.
No, 2 didn't outdo 1.
It didn't?
No. 1 was, if you remember, Spider-Man 1 came out right after 9/11, and the imagery of Spider-Man 1 and...
Well, they had to take out... They took out some scenes, because they took out one scene of Spider-Man stopping some guys robbing a bank that they got away in a helicopter.
Of, like, New York, and
they really,
like a Green Goblin terrorist, and like a guy helping New Yorkers, like... Really, I really do think that Spider-Man, great movie, but I think the reason why it made so much money, I mean, it outdid Star Wars.
It was about New York.
It brought even people who weren't from New York, like, it brought home that imagery of 9/11, and I'm going to say it, I mean, we still see imagery of 9/11 in these superhero movies. Mm-hmm. Like, even in this one, like, that building, and when they're in South Africa, Iron Man and Hulk are fighting, and there's no one in that building, so he crashes the whole building. It's like, ugh, that looks familiar.
Well, and going back to what you said, there's no repercussions for Stark. Him and Hulk just basically destroy whatever city they're in.
Yeah, and he just said, I guess I'm going to have to buy this building.
And they walk away from it with no repercussions.
I mean, well, there were a little bit at that point. Like, well, sort of. They were, like, I know Colby Smolder's character said, no one's asking for the arrest for Banner's arrest yet, but I'm sure it's going to happen. And of course it didn't.
Because most people in the world know Stark's Iron Man. So you think someone, if it was a real world, would be suing Stark for damages.
It's like he said, like, I'm going to buy this building. Like, I guess he just gets sued all the time, or he pays people off.
He just pays people off before he gets there.
Like, whatever, I guess. Which would be okay. Like, it's one thing if he's fighting Loki. That's S.H.I.E.L.D.'s fault. But he's like fighting Ultron. It's like, no, that's your fault. Like, you made this. Speaking of, though, I am going to say, like, even though the whole, like, Tony Stark and Nick Fury get away with everything kind of is starting to get kind of weird, I love how this movie makes several points to get right, to show the audience that they're getting right what Man of Steel got wrong. Did you notice that? Like, even the part where he's like, no one's in this building, so he knocks Hulk in there, and then they spend like this whole, all the Avengers are like saving people, and like they make it a point to show them saving people.
Uh-huh. Especially at the end when the whole thing's being,
Yeah. Which I was cool with. I was like, yes, that's fine. They're superheroes. And, they're also mostly all killers. So it's like, it's good to know that they're saving people. Whereas with, like, Man of Steel, I mean, you and I talked about it. I don't hate Man of Steel. I think anyone who says what's wrong with Man of Steel is that he killed Zod is missing the point. Superman kills Zod all the time. He killed Zod in the old 70s movies.
They just didn't really... That was more or less implied instead of being shown that he did it.
Right. But this movie has some other problem. Man of Steel, like, finally, I've rewatched it a couple times, and finally, I'll admit, I'm not a big fan of it. I mean,
And I guess to be counterpoint to what you're talking about with Man of Steel, if you really want to nitpick Man of Steel, it's not necessarily Superman destroying a lot of New York as it is Zod's machine destroying New York. But then again, Superman doesn't really help the issue as well when he fights Zod himself. So... Yeah, you can put some blame on Superman, but
and I'm not going to say that's nitpicking. That's kind of a big deal. Like it's kind of a big deal. I wouldn't call that nitpicking.
But you can see where it's like, yeah, it's not all Superman's fault, but then again, he tried to stop it, but in the same sense, he didn't help it either by the way he went after Zod, and they destroyed a few buildings themselves.
It was way too aggressive.
And I was asking Caleb because when we were talking about the
seems like he really liked that movie, if I remember.
Talking about Age of Ultron. Well, he's a DC fan, and that's fine.
Hey, I like him both. Yeah. I don't belong to either
but
camp. I guess more Marvel.
I asked him the question. I said, the way Marvel is and the tone they're keeping, I asked him if he was too afraid that DC might stay the opposite and stay too dark along kind of like the Man of Steel lines.
Yeah.
Would he have a problem with that? And he's like, he kind of take a wait and see attitude with it.
I think they've proven that with Man of Steel. Like, it's like they're like, well, this worked with the Dark Knight movies, and this sort of worked with the Watchmen.
Well, Dark Knight was what had a kind of a dark tone, but it wasn't dark in a way.
But at that same point though, dark and gritty works for Batman. It doesn't really work
for Superman.
Everything. Like, and that's what they're trying to do is make everything dark and gritty. And it's like, come on, guys. Yeah, Superman. I mean, there's definitely things that I like about Man of Steel, but ultimately, I just don't think it's that good of a movie. I know that movie's like 2 years old now, and I should let it go. But I thought Ultron was great. I thought Vision was amazing. My friend had to ask me, which, by the way, the second time I saw it, I went with a friend who he'd seen Avengers, but he was so drunk he doesn't rember.
Yeah, you've told that story before.
He doesn't. He's also seen Guardians of the Galaxy, but he was so drunk he doesn't remember. So he went sober to see Avengers 2, and he's not a huge fan by any means, but he liked it, and he was like, that was actually a really good movie, and you're gonna have to explain. And he actually doesn't like a lot of those action movies, but he really liked Avengers. But like, he's like me, he hates Transformers. Like,
and they're gonna do a fifth one. But that's another subject, another podcast.
But you know what? If people like it, whatever. Like, I'm beyond the point. But Transformers is the one where I'm like, I kind of wish they'd quit making these. Like, I don't even like watching the commercials for this crap, and I don't like my friends like inviting me to go see it because I don't want to see it. And those are like the stupidest movies ever made. But no, with anyway, he was like, you're gonna have to explain Vision to me, and I was like, okay. Here's the thing, like, so I tried to explain it, but I mentioned, I was like, I'm going to explain to you that also, like, a little bit of Vision from the comics, but also the movie has changed a lot. Like the gold jewel, the Mind Stone or whatever. In the comics, that actually belonged to a character named Adam Warlock.
Okay.
Who started out in Fantastic Four like everyone else. He was one of the big players against Thanos in the Infinity Gauntlet. I think more or less they're just going to have Vision replace him, because Vision, as far as comics go, Vision is about as weird as it gets, and Adam Warlock might be weirder. I mean, so I think they're just going to have Vision replace him. And like, as weird as Vision is, he's such a big Avengers character. Like, he's one of the main Avengers that, like, if you're going to go all out and put in like the characters that people don't know, you might as well stick Vision is. Because the fact is, like, all the Avengers that everyone is familiar with, none of them stay in the team very long. Like, they were the original members, but the team itself is really more like Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, Vision, Hawkeye,
kind of rotating.
Black Panther. Yeah, it rotates a lot. Black Panther, Miss Marvel. I think Spider-Woman is in it too. Like, I think those are actually more the main Avengers characters. Beast from X-Men. Funny, like, he was actually in Avengers for a long time, all throughout the 70s and 80s.
Wow.
He rejoined X-Men in the 90s, partially for the cartoon, because I don't know if it was for the cartoon, I might be wrong, but they put him in the cartoon instead of Colossus. They put Beast in the cartoon, and he was so popular that they've kept him in X-Men again ever since. But he's actually spent almost 2 decades in Avengers as an Avenger.
So now that we've gotten Age of Ultron, the next one up for Marvel's Ant-Man in July.
How weird is it, by the way? Like, I just read that Ant-Man is supposed to be the close of Phase 2. I thought it was supposed to be the open of Phase 3.
I guess,
how weird is that?
I guess technically, even though it's Ant-Man's considered the beginning of Phase 3 as far as their movies, I guess it still takes place before Ultron.
Does it?
In the time frame. I guess
they
if
just
you wanted
to release Ultron first.
I think they want to release Ultron first.
That's weird.
I could see why. I mean, you don't...
Yeah, because I can too. Like, I don't think Ant-Man's going to bring in the second.
I think Marvel's kind of treating Ant-Man like they did Guardians. Not quite sure how the public's going to react to it, how it's going to be taken, accepted. So release the big one. Maybe everyone gets so excited about Age of Ultron that they'll go see Ant-Man.
The truth is, Ant-Man has had some bad press by losing Edgar Wright.
Right.
Do you know the story behind that? Edgar Wright had been trying to make an Ant-Man movie since 2006. I remember, I think I was seeing like Fantastic Four or something crappy, and right before I saw it, my friend and I read that on the internet. There's this thing called the internet back then. And we're like, oh my gosh, the guy who did Shaun of the Dead is going to make Ant-Man. And we're like, why is he doing that? Like, what a crappy character. And then we read about it. It sounded really interesting, and they're sort of following it, I guess. He wasn't going to do the Hank Pym, which was the original Ant-Man. He was going to do Scott Lang, because he said Scott Lang was the first one that he read about, and he didn't even know there was an original one until like a year later when he was a kid. And Scott Lang is like a better character in every way. Hank Pym is a pretty bad character. So he was going to do that, but then he was going to have like flashbacks of Ant-Man and Wasp in the 60s, the Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne versions. They kept he put it off so he could do Hot Fuzz, and then Marvel bought the rights to it, and they kept putting it off. They were gonna release it. They kept pushing the date back. So basically, he had been writing and rewriting that movie for 10 years before he quit. So I mean, there's a lot of controversy there with that movie.
My guess is how much of his script is still kept in what's coming out.
Well, they kept Scott Lang, so that part is still there. They have Old Man Hank Pym. Other than that, I don't know. I think it was going to be a very different...
I'm sure there were some changes.
Edgar Wright is one of my favorite directors, and when he left, I still want to see the movie, and I still think it's going to be a good movie, but this is a blow, and this is a big blow for the Marvel Universe, I think, for the Marvel Studios was losing him. I don't think they realized that the public doesn't give two craps about Ant-Man. I don't think that this is one of those things where it's like we want to do it our way to tie in with our movies. Who cares? It's Ant-Man. Like, he's like the crappiest character ever. Let this guy do his fun, quirky movie. Cut his budget in half if you have to. Like, don't expect it to be like the biggest thing ever. And I don't know.
I guess we'll see.
I could understand if this was an issue with Spider-Man or Thor or something, but it's Ant-Man. Ant-Man sucks. Like, I mean, let this like brilliant genius do whatever he wants with this character. Like, that's kind of how I feel. But hopefully the movie will still be good. And I mean, it's Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd's hilarious. Paul Rudd is actually one of my favorite movie stars ever, comedians, movie stars ever. I love Paul Rudd. So,
and I'm sure you don't want to hear this, but Paul Rudd has been signed on with Civil War movie.
I did read that actually, yeah.
So,
and that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I figured as much.
I mean,
let's face it.
He's sort of one of the original Avengers, even though it's Scott Lang. So he's really not.
I mean, let's face it. Captain America: Civil War in the press has pretty much dubbed it Avengers 2.5. I mean, for as many characters as they've got, my guess that'll be that'll be good as well. So
I hope so.
with the Russo brothers directing, it's got to be. If they're doing the Civil War what they did with Winter Soldier, it should be well worth the money next year.
I hope so. I mean, I got to be honest with you. If I may be frank, when the Civil War comic came out, I think it was 2005, 2006. I think it was 2006. It was right after Iron Man came out of the superhero closet and was like, I'm Tony Stark, which is hard to believe that for most of the comics life, Iron Man had a secret identity, which even when I was a kid, I thought that was lame. I think that's part of the reason why no one really cared about Iron Man. It was because the secret identity, you have to like wrap your head around that. It's like, so he's saying it's a bodyguard, but then when he's helping,
the bodyguard's never around. Yeah,
the bodyguard is never around, and then when he's helping, when he's saving people and using his brilliant Tony Stark brain, like he doesn't downplay that. So it's like, so this bodyguard's like this amazing physicist too, and it's like, okay, I'm not buying any of this. And then also like Tony Stark in the comics since the beginning of time has had sex like crazy.
Kind of the like, James Bond of the Marvel universe.
Yeah, and it's like they drew it a little differently than how it is in the movie, but he has like this armor basically on his chest all the time to keep him alive. And it's like, what, does he not take off his shirt whenever he has sex? Like, so like as a kid, I'm like, none of this crap, like this is really poorly written. I'm not gonna read this. But anyway, so he came out, and then that kind of started Civil War. And if I'm gonna be frank with you, Civil War sucked, made me quit reading comics. I was a grown man by that point, so I really wasn't reading them anyway, but that was when I was like, no, I'll never read them again. It was really bad, and people love it. I know a lot. My friend loves it, a friend of mine loves it, and that's fine if you guys like it, whatever. Like, we all have different opinions, but like, I hated it. I thought it was just the worst thing. So, but the thing about these movies is they don't really follow the comics 100%, which is good. So I think the movie will be pretty good.
Yeah. Last thing, probably the next biggest.
We kind of went a little long. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
I'm long-winded.
No, that's all right. The next big superhero movie, if you want to skip Ant-Man, is next on the schedule to really be released is Batman versus Superman. They've released a trailer.
You just showed it. You know what? I haven't gotten around to seeing it yet. You just showed it to me.
They've released a teaser trailer, and I think it's got one of the best lines for a trailer. Do you bleed? Yeah. You will, in that voice that they use for him. Your initial thoughts?
Really good trailer. I thought actually Ben Affleck looked actually pretty good as Bruce Wayne. I liked the Batman armor. Like, it makes sense if he's fighting Superman. Like you said, the line was really good. But it doesn't stop me from not caring
about that.
Like,
yeah.
I just don't care. And I'm sorry. And, people say, well, you're a Marvel fan, you're a DC fan. I love them both. I wasn't that into Man of Steel. I don't really like Zack Snyder, to be quite honest with you. Like, I liked The Watchmen because he followed Alan Moore's book to the T, but the stuff that he changed I thought kind of sucked. Mm-hmm. I don't really care for his artistic vision, if I may. I just got done, I feel like I just got done a few years ago watching the best Batman trilogy, and now it's like, oh, let's start all over, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, can we just move on? Can we just have Superman, or can we just, move on and give it some time, Like, I don't know. I mean, again, I hope it's good. I hope it's really good. The trailer was amazing. It piqued my interest for a minute, but I still am not that interested. But that's because of all the previous baggage. That's not because the trailer didn't look good. It looked amazing.
You don't think they'll try and backtrack and try and correct the issues with Man of Steel?
Or
would that be
I'm gonna
bad
be
news
honest
for
with
DC?
You, a lot of the issues with Man of Steel was strictly the direction. I mean, I could complain about him tearing down Metropolis till the cows come home, but the fact is, the other issue that Man of Steel has was the script just wasn't that great. The dialogue was weird. Clark's dad getting killed by a tornado was stupid. I'm sorry, that was stupid. Compare that to the old 70s movies where he dies of a heart attack. Superman, this god, can't save his dad from a heart attack. That's something. But his dad is like, don't save me from the tornado, and then he gets killed by a tornado. It's like, that's stupid. I'm sorry, that is stupid. What I did like about Man of Steel, though, and this is Zack Snyder's strength, all the Krypton stuff, all the sci-fi stuff was awesome. Like, I almost want to see a Russell Crowe on Krypton movie. Like, just Jor-El.
A backstory.
Yeah, like, that would be great. You know, I mean, frankly, I love Batman. Batman's, like, the best character ever. But honestly, like, dump Batman, have Superman go to like all these weird planets, you know, sort of like what Thor does. And, you know, that would be awesome. I don't know. I don't want to come off as like some snobby dork, but
all you DC lovers, send your emails to Truebelieve. No.
I do hope it's good. Like I said, most of my problems, the trailer does look good, and I hope it's good. It's just my problem is really like the baggage that comes with it. Like I said, I don't think Zack Snyder's that great of a director. Did you think of it though?
The trailer?
Yeah.
The first time I saw the trailer and I heard that line and just the whole tone of what they did with it, I was ready to jump in the car and go see the movie right now. But then again, that's what trailers are designed to get you to do. Yeah. They want you to go see it. They're trying to make you want to go see it, and I get it. Based on the teaser trailer, it looks great.
It looks great, yeah. Like, I mean,
I'm going to guess you won't see a really full trailer with a little bit divulging more of what's going on probably till sometime late summer, early fall, since that movie doesn't come out till March of next year.
By the way, this is another one. Warner Brothers has been throwing around a Batman versus Superman script for how long? Like, since the 90s, right?
I'm not sure about that.
Like, been around for a long time.
Speaking of DC, but not Man of Steel or Batman, I know you've seen some of the pictures I've been posting of the
like Wonder Woman's in there
on set pictures from Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And I don't know if those are pictures being taken by someone and they're letting those be released, but if it's someone who's not on production or someone who's visiting and they're just taking pictures on their cell phone and just sending them out, either A, they don't care, or B, they have a leak that they're not aware of. But not that I care, you know, that's their problem. But it seems like they're letting a lot of info out, at least on the set, as far as the look and what they're doing with Suicide Squad out quite a bit here recently. Not that I care, because Margot Robbie looks pretty damn good in the Harley Quinn outfit.
You know what is crazy is when those pictures were released, I saw on Facebook and all the like, I swear to God, Facebook commenters are just terrible people. They're all like, couldn't they get someone hotter? It's like, what is wrong? Like, you know, these are like 18-year-old boys who have never gotten laid. It's like, dude, she's looking pretty darn good to me. I'm sorry. And this is and she's worked with Will Smith before.
Just that movie that just came out.
It's new.
Focus. Yes, Focus.
I didn't see it, but in the commercial, she was pretty darn good looking.
Well, how about Will Smith all shaved and bald except for just a beard for Deadshot? I mean,
that's great. I hope he does well, because he's a really good actor, and it'd be nice to see him kind of get out of his frame.
There was an article just the other day I read that someone watched a few scenes being shot with Jared Leto as the Joker, and they said that he has dove into that character hardcore.
Jared Leto's good.
He's giving it.
Remember
he's
when
giving
he was
it
in
all
that band?
He's got.
30 Seconds to Mars. Do you remember that band? It was a rock. It was a rock, like an alternative rock band from the early Whenever I think of Jared Leto, I think of that. He was the lead singer of that band.
See, I'm not into alternative rock, so I wouldn't have known.
They weren't that good, honestly.
But supposedly they said he's really given a good, unique performance, and they think he'll be believably scary as the Joker.
Oh, okay. I thought you were about to say better than Heath Ledger. I'm like, what?
No, I don't. I don't think no one's really come out saying he can be better than Heath Ledger. There was one article saying, from what they saw, he might be on par, but they won't say better.
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of actors who've played, Cesar Romero,
Jack Nicholson,
Heath
Ledger are probably the big three.
Don't forget about Mark Hamill,
doing the voice,
yeah, and the voice
anime series.
Honestly, I know voice acting is different from real acting, but That's not fair.
I'm sure
But,
they're
that was
not
just
complaining
a
about the
joke. But,
paychecks, though.
You know, when I read a lot of the times when I read like a Batman comic, if the Joker's there, it's Mark Hamill's voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there are a lot of different takes on the Joker, and most of them have been really good. Like even the Cesar Romero one was good. It was for kids, and it was like LSD induced, like whatever, like.
The Cesar Romero performance was really, it fit for the 60s show.
Right, yeah.
It fit the 60s
did.
shows.
It did.
I mean, if you wouldn't want a Heath Ledger performance of the Joker in the 60s Batman because it'd just feel completely out of place.
I think, with the Heath Ledger one, aside from being, that one was like a phenomenal performance, and it was also his last performance before he died. So, it is hard. And, and I like Jared Leto, and even still, though, I kind of feel like I do with Ben Affleck on Batman with him as the Joker. It's like, I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be really good.
Well, the way I look at
it
is
I don't know if I'm ready yet. But at the same time, it's like, well, if the world is ready, then maybe I should just stay at home.
I don't think it's necessarily how they dress him up as the Joker or what his look is. I think it'll be more his performance of whether or not it sells for the Joker.
Boy, the internet really,
that picture they've released
over that.
Yes.
Got so mad. I'll be honest, I wasn't digging the tattoos, but the look, and I didn't really care either way. After seeing the pictures of Suicide Squad, the tattoos would fit that movie quite well.
And
but the look of just him with the weird makeup and the smile, it's like, no, he looks pretty good. For me, again, I didn't dig the tattoos. I could Photoshop him out. But really, if the movie lends itself to having a Joker with tattoos, so be it.
And how much of those tattoos really going to be seen?
I heard that they're not going to go through with them. I heard that was a
promotional thing.
Yeah, that was early promotional art.
I don't know. You could see some on the arms
that just kind of got leaked.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with it. It's not my thing, but whatever.
Well, it's like you said, tattoos or not, I don't care about how they make him look. I'll judge him as a Joker
based on
his
movie.
on his performance.
And the funny part is Suicide Squad is another movie that I didn't care about at all. But seeing it now, I still feel like they're going too gritty. But
then again, it may
that
work
movie
for
looks
DC.
Kind of good.
It may work for DC.
It hasn't yet. I'm going to be honest with you. Man of Steel, I'm sorry, it's not bad, but it's not a 100% great movie either. And if you're writing everything on how well Man of Steel did, it's like,
Well, I think we've come to the end of our rope.
One more question, Reggie.
Yes.
Since I'm interviewing you, what would you rate Ultron?
Ultron
as a movie?
As a movie, I'll give it an A-.
A-?
I'll give it an A-.
I was gonna do A-, B+. I would say maybe an 8 out of 10.
Yeah,
somewhere around that.
A-.
That's pretty good, by the way. I know it might have sounded like we were disappointed, and we had some things that we had to discuss, but the movie's actually fantastic.
Yes. It's definitely a typical Marvel movie. It's what you expect from Marvel right now. And if you've been happy with the previous, you'll definitely be happy with this one.
Oh, yeah.
So Ant-Man may be a different story, but that's also another podcast. So,
it's coming out quick.
July 17th. So anyway, thank you all for listening. Keep listening, and we'll talk at you later.